Welcome to the Overcoming PTSD podcast. My name is Brad Shipke, and today I have a very special interview for you with a wonderful lady named Mimi. Now, Mimi is somebody that I worked with over the past few years, and she has gotten to a point where she can definitively say that she is fully recovered from all of her PTSD symptoms. Fully recovered, nothing, everything permanently gone. From seizures that she was having that were induced by trauma, from night sweats, are all completely gone. So in this episode, I really wanted to break down the exact mindsets, principles, beliefs, and tools that she used to be successful so that you, the listener, can learn from her experience. So I want you to sit back, relax, and really enjoy this conversation with Mimi, where we talk about recovery, tools, and even a story about how she was able to go under surgery just with the power of meditation without having to take any anesthetic or pain medication. We talk about a lot of really cool things. So sit back and enjoy this amazing interview that I had. Welcome, Mimi. Welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
How long have you been with us so far? I forget how many years. Was it like you were a client?
It's my fourth year.
Fourth year. Yeah.
Yeah. I started in August 21.
Awesome. And before you started, what did things kind of look like for you? How bad were things?
Yeah. The day I found the program, I had just hit a wall. I had been my life was going downwards really fast at that point, and I didn't know what to do. I was not in a depression state, but it was like everything was going as if I was crying a lot, but not knowing where it was coming from. I had overwhelming emotions all the time. It had been lasting for months, and my work time in the office was down to 2 hours a day, and it kept going down. At that point, the last weeks, I had been crying all day long. And I was trying to eat right. I was trying to take care of myself. I had tried therapy in the past years, and it didn't work for me. So I was looking for something else. I'm someone that in my life has been a lot on the path of self-taught. I was a lot self-taught in a lot of departments. I also went to university, but I often went in directions where I can learn by myself. That's where I'm the most efficient. So I was looking for something that would be appealing to me in that way. I never found it at that point. And that day in August, I went at a client's that was near where my biggest trauma happened, and my body went into a very severe post-traumatic. It was like
it's like shut down or emotional overwhelm.
Shutting down, and at the same time, it was like in a panicked mode, and I was not understanding what was happening at all. And I was trying to regain control, and it was not happening. So I was a member of the Facebook page Overcoming PTSD for a while before this happened, and I had not gone on the page for some time. And that night, I thought maybe somebody posted something that could help me. I went on, and at that moment, Kayleen had posted a video that she was about to talk about the program, and it was you had to register, and it was about to start in 5 minutes. I thought, this is a sign. I have to register, go get a glass of water, and boom, that's it. That's what I did. And it lasted 3 hours. I took 11 pages of notes. And when she started to present the facts, the science behind the program, for me, just when she was saying that it's possible to heal, for me, I had never heard that before, either in therapy or elsewhere. And for me, that did it. I was like at the right place at the right time. And it was so overwhelming. I started to cry, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And I knew that this was it for me. It was a formula. The format of the program made it so that it was like not in a classroom. It was following my self-teaching, not values, but way of going in life. And so I subscribed immediately. And that night when I went to bed, I was seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, right then and there. I slept well, even though I had nightmares back then, every night for years. And the next day, I did not cry at all. So that was the first change in me. No crying instantly, because there was an immediate impact in my mindset. Just by the 3 hours I was listening, and I immediately started to listen to the modules on the mindset.
So what do you think? What do you think made that shift right off the bat? Because what it sounds like, right? So like you brought up, like you had overwhelming emotions, which lasted for months. You were crying every day. We're only working 2 hours per day. Had nightmares every single night. And I don't know if the night sweats were happening at that time, or the seizures, but but you're going through a lot, and then you kind of were exposed to kind of some of the things that we were saying, and started to believe, right, is what it sounds like, that this is actually possible, right? So you didn't really believe that it was possible before. And was that what really helped give you that initial kind of just jump? Because I find that like so many people that I talk to, just like whenever I do like consultations with people or talk to people on the phone or just new people who have PTSD, it like one of the biggest transformations in the beginning is just that belief, right? Just that it's even possible to get better from this. Because there's so many people who tell you or tell people that it's like, your brain's permanently changed. You're going to be like this forever. This is your new normal. Here, just have some medication. Here, just come to therapy once per week and be dependent on me for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And we'll just manage it. So it was like that, like, was it just that belief that just something just clicked inside of you that gave you the hope? Because it's a depressing place to be when you don't believe. And that alone can give a lot of symptoms.
I had the belief that somewhere something could help me. I just didn't find it yet. I was still searching, but I was kind of getting at that place where discouragement was pointing its nose into my life. Yeah, and that's not that's not part of who I am. I'm someone that usually will solve everybody's problems in life and professionally. I'm the person that everybody goes to. So for me, at first it was like, okay, what can I do to solve this? But I tried things. I tried a lot of things, even essential oils. I tried everything that I could think of. And I just didn't find something that worked for me at that point. When Kayleen started to talk, I'm a scientific also, and I studied biology and other sciences. And when she started to talk about the science behind it and all of the compilation of the facts. For me, that spoke to that part of my brain.
Yeah.
And I was very emotional, but also very reasoning. There was a reasoning part of me that was like taking in all of the facts and the science and analyzing it. And all of that put together, it felt right. It felt like, okay, this sounds like something that I can trust, I can believe in, and I can apply. And it was something that that kind of triggered a belief in me that okay, this is the way to go, and there's healing at the end.
Yeah,
that if I do the work, as she says, as you say, I'm going to heal. So let's go.
And then
for me, there was no more hesitation. There was no more. There was no possible hesitation about this. I needed something that would work. This was showing proof to me enough that it could work if I put the work in. And I'm a workaholic, and I've been analyzing a lot of my stuff for over the years. So for me, it was like, okay, this solution could work for me. And it's not even could, it will work for me.
Yeah.
And
so like the way that I think about that is like you happen to stumble upon a stimulus.
Totally.
So like you happen to stumble upon, what we were doing in our message. And that was a strong enough stimulus. Cause that was one thing that like I've always known is like, if you like the very first challenge to help somebody overcome is just the belief that it's even possible to heal or possible to get better. It doesn't always have to be, I believe that it's 100% possible to heal. So you kind of got in front of the stimulus, which was our training at the time. That kind of broke that belief. But something that I would do, because like I didn't have really anything going through it myself, was like, I want to build this belief myself. I want to have the intention to build this belief myself and sell myself on the belief that it's possible to heal. Right. So I like, and that's something that I don't see a lot of people doing, because you do get stuck in that rut of hopelessness or learned helplessness, where you just, you probably try and fail for so long, or you've just been in pain for so long, or maybe your whole life, that you just kind of settle down into believing that this is the way it's always going to be. But if you're going to change, you have to first change that belief. And for you, that was the very first thing, which is like always interesting. Like whenever I do these interviews or just talk to anybody who's healed, it's always the belief, just them like, oh, it is possible. And then everything starts to shift. So I think for people who are still struggling, it's like, you don't have to wait for that stimulus. That's what I would say. It's like, sell yourself. You can sell yourself on why it's possible to heal. Like go out there and find the reasons for why it's true. And this is why I like doing these podcasts too, because here you are. Here's a reason. You're right here. And because here are the amazing things that you've already said is that you had nightmares every single night. No more. You're crying all day long.
The nightmares.
No more.
The nightmares.
You were working for 2 hours a day. No more. How many hours a day are you working now?
But
too many. But now you're full time, to say the least, probably.
Oh yeah. I'm over 50 hours billable.
Yeah. So, and then you also had seizures, which we'll get into, and you also had sleep problems and night sweats, and all of that is gone. So like you are the perfect. I bring that up just because like you're the perfect reference for people, because people need references. Because there's not a lot of references out there. Like you go to a lot of support groups and it's like, oh, I'm hurt and this sucks. My life sucks, whatever. All these things are bad. And I have this symptoms. You just hear a lot of people complaining, but you don't get a lot of people who are like you. And a lot of people don't want to share their story in this way.
Yeah.
Of them
and
getting better.
I have to say, the nightmares it was within the first week I started the program.
Interesting.
Yeah, the nightmares are not the same as what came afterwards with the night sweats. It's really nightmares. They were related to another trauma, and that part, those nightmares. When I started the program, and I did really apply everything I was learning. It took me maybe a week, and I had no more nightmares. And I had them for years at that point.
So what do you think it was that got rid of them in a week? Like that's pretty remarkable. And you've never had one since, right? And we're talking about 4 years now, right? So it's not just like it was a fluke thing. It was whatever happened in that 1 week eliminated the nightmares permanently. So
permanent.
What do you think it was?
I did a lot of, well, to start off, like I said, the mindset was the first thing for me. In the beginning of the program, we talk about the mindset. You talk about.
Yeah.
I'm appropriating.
It's all good.
The mindset is really key, and for me, I still apply it every single day. I was talking to my daughter yesterday on the phone, and how I'm trying to communicate that to her kids when they come over by simply doing stuff that make them feel the positivity. I try to make them see life differently. And for me, that mindset, that change of mindset was, I'm not a negative person at the base. And I'm sure a lot of people victim of trauma are not negative people at first. But when you suffer from trauma, or in my case, CPTSD, you have traumas, and you're like, I call it buried. Your personality is like buried beneath all of the traumas and the symptoms that go with it.
Absolutely.
So you don't shine anymore. There's like so many clouds over you that you cannot shine anymore. You cannot be that positive person anymore. You cannot shine that positivity. So by stripping those layers of clouds with the work that you do in the program, you can finally get to the light that you shine.
Okay. So whatever you did in the first, so what specifically did you do in the first week that kind of had that profound shift of stripping away those clouds and the trauma responses, so you're able to even get in touch with that piece? Like, what did that look like?
Well, I constantly, each time my mind would go in a, let's say, a bad place, to sum it up, I would instantly redirect it and really do the swap of thoughts, and really focus on staying in a positive mindset all the time. At first, it was kind of hard. It's hard for anybody that's going through those ordeals, but it becomes an exercise. You exercise your brain, and it becomes part of you. And of course, it didn't become part of me in the first week, but it kind of triggered something inside of my brain that started to work on thinking and analyzing, and it started to look with different perspectives on my traumas, which brought on analysis and with my reasoning brain, and it kind of I'm going to say process.
Yeah.
It kind of went in zones that it didn't go before, and it kind of processed everything by itself without me going through the processing part in the program at that point.
Yeah, because the way you think, like the way to think about it is like something I always say all the time is you have the logical journey in processing and you have the emotional journey, and they typically happen in tandem to some degree. But at a fundamental level, changing beliefs comes down to changing thoughts and how you perceive reality. So basically what you were doing, and this is why we get people to do this in the beginning, because it like you are processing, it's just not hyper targeted processing. It's not like you're like targeting down onto this one trauma that happened and like really working at it and processing and identifying core beliefs. It's kind of more broad processing across like a larger spectrum or your entire life, because you're really reinterpreting every single thought, at least you were, every single thought that was coming into your head. And that's kind of how I imagine it, is that you have these floods of thoughts that are always like coming into your mind just as a human. Right.
Yeah.
And then you're basically analyzing each one as like, is this positive or negative? And if it's negative, I'm going to swap it out for a positive one, and I'm going to reinforce that. And I'm also going to, that's going to cause me to reinterpret reality and my life, because a lot of the negative thoughts that do come up are from past trauma. So inevitably you're going to have those thoughts that come up from the past trauma, and then you're going to reinterpret those and change your perspective on those. So you are actually doing processing, even though it's not targeted. And within there, if you're like a logical person or just like a normal person, you're going to have to sell yourself on why that new positive thought is true. Because if you say it and you don't actually like believe it in your heart, then it doesn't really have the effect and you don't really feel it. I don't know if you would agree or not, but yeah. So you're going to do that analysis within that simple strategy. It's like you can distill all of this crazy, like, because the field is so like of trauma recovery is so complex and convoluted, and you can read books and books and textbooks and know all the science behind it. But if you like, and I think it's important to a degree to know that, but like you can then distill that down to like one simple thing as the thought swap exercise, which is like every single thought, is this positive or negative? I'm going to swap the negative for the positive. It's like, if I just say that, you'd be like, oh, that's too simple to work. But if you actually understand why it works, right? Then you'll actually implement it and understand how powerful it is through experience. But I one thing I love about you, there's a lot of things, right? I mean, there's probably, I would just go on forever if I named them all. But one thing is like your mindset. Because it sounds like, again, what stopped the nightmares in the beginning was your mindset, how you were perceiving. I mean, like, do you think it was like certain traumas that were causing the nightmares? That the positive thinking allowed you to reinterpret those just kind of on a more broad spectrum? Do you think that's what kind of did it?
It was a change of perspective. Me feeling safe at that point was a big issue, because they were mostly related to something that happened that was that put my life in danger. So it was mostly that, and knowing that my daughter was safe, and that was related to that. So after reasoning with myself that, okay, everybody's safe, there's no reason, and everybody knows about the situation, so you're protected. There was no reason for me to be scared. So at night, there's no reason for the nightmares anymore.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So it was like a reasoning part that kind of calmed down those things. And the last time, it's so funny because it was the last time I had that dream, I was laughing at the person. It was It was.
That's a nice transformation. Instead of a nightmare, you're
Yeah,
laughing.
yeah. And I was telling my daughter, look how
A lot of people take that.
ridiculous he is. So that told me that, okay, I'm done.
That's cool. Yeah. So like the predominant, or maybe a predominant thought pattern that you're having was just naturally around that, the contents of the nightmare.
Yeah.
And then doing the mindset work, AKA the thought swap, changing your thoughts allowed you to change your perspective on the thoughts that were coming from the nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. Which then allowed you, okay, that makes sense. That's cool. And it's like that, it really reveals like the power of the fundamentals, right? Because there are fundamentals that go into healing and processing. And obviously we teach those before we dive into the specific processing tools in our coaching. But like controlling your thoughts, thought control is a fundamental. Yeah. And like a prerequisite to that is awareness, which I wanted to dive in with you.
That's what I was going to say.
I got you.
Yeah.
I said it first.
Yeah, and I got you. Awareness.
I'll say you probably thought it first.
Yeah, it goes with mindset. For me, both are tied together because you cannot change your mindset if you're not aware.
Yeah.
Because you need to be always aware of your thoughts, of where they're going, if you want to be able to change your mindset. And for me, that was easy because I had been practicing that for over 25 years when I started the program, which was in 21. So that was an easy part for me. But my type of awareness was a bit different because it was more an observant. It wasn't contemplative awareness, but it was. So I had to kind of change my type of awareness, and it became like a game at that point. And it was like, okay, I'm gonna make it evolve, and it's gonna evolve into something positive, since it's evolving, and it's gonna be more proactive. So I was trying to change my type of awareness into something that would be very proactive into the thought process, and that's what I did. And that took me maybe a week just to convert like that my type of awareness, because I was very aware already. So it became like a meditating exercise.
Yeah. So like and that was like the next thing I wanted to ask you about. And is that you did meditation for 25 years.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like you set yourself up perfectly for this transformation. You just need to make that switch from, as you said, the observant type of awareness to the proactive type. So before, I'm interested in like your exact meditation technique, but before I want to clear on like the observant what awareness and like what that looked like. So was it more of just like, I see everything here, but I'm not going to change it. Right?
Yeah.
And were you sold on that for some reason? Like, was there a reasoning behind, I'm sure there was there a reasoning behind why you did that and why you didn't challenge what was there? Like,
yeah.
Why, simple question. Why did you do that?
Well, it's a Buddhist practice.
That's what I figured. Yeah. I was wondering, because a lot of like when it comes down to meditative practices, a lot of it is accept and just let it be and don't touch it. It is what it is, basically.
It is what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting. And then it all just
have a right to live. And and it's a lot of contemplation, but in a sense of appreciation also. And in a loving and compassionate and empathetic way. Yeah. So it's all of that into one whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I kind of went through that phase in my own healing. Because like I looked at so many different things, and that was one thing that I came across, which was like meditation and looking at your thoughts and emotions from a more detached and objective place, and just accepting them and allowing them to to be. And then that would be, in theory, the thing that kind of calms things down and allows you to live in a more serene place. And I do think there's truth to that, from my experience, right? Which is like when you're able to separate yourself from, let's say, I like to call it like your more mechanical mind versus like your higher self and spiritual mind. It's like if you can kind of separate that, where like the mechanical mind being the emotions and the logical thought, or the thoughts that you have. And then the spiritual is just like your true self, who you really are. And when you gain that separation, you do get a sense of peace. But I can never make sense in my mind. Why wouldn't I want to optimize that mechanical mind, aka the thoughts and the emotions? Like, obviously, like I would love to spend in my, like, the majority of my time and awareness in this spiritual realm, right? Where I'm just like an enlightened soul and like nothing bothers me and I'm completely detached from my human reality and thoughts and emotions and everything like that. But the truth was like, that's hard to freaking do. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like I would try to do it, but then like a trigger would pop up or something else would happen, or like have something at work and I'm like, I'm back in. So like, so like I came up with a balance where it's like, well, okay, maybe that's the ideal state that I'm aiming for. Yeah. Right. Is to be in kind of this serene, detached place where I can see everything and be the observer of everything. But I also want to like optimize that mechanical mind so that when I do operate in there, where like as a human, I unless I turn into the Buddha, which maybe I will be someday, but I'm not today. I want to optimize that. So when I do live in this realm, the more earthly realm, it's like, I want that to be good. So like, was that kind of like a similar transformation that happened for you, where it's like, oh, I can optimize this. Like I can still see it. I can like observe it, but I can also influence it. And the influencing of it actually improves my life to a incredible degree.
Yes. That's a large question. There's a lot of elements. I could answer for hours on that.
What's your yeah. Say as much as you want.
I've started reading on Buddhism in '96.
So you know more than me.
So my path has been not enlightened, but I've been on that path since '96. I've started meditating back then, and I'm. There are some beliefs that I don't believe in, but most of it is a way of thinking that is something that appeals to me.
Yeah.
The Dalai Lama says compassion is his religion. That because Buddhism is not really a religion, it's a way of life, a way of thinking. It's a spirituality. It's not a religion as per se, and it's principles of life. And for me, a lot of those principles are just common sense. And so, of course, there are things that are like after death. Those are things that talk to me because of experiences that I've had in my life.
Near-death experiences?
Near death and
really?
And yeah. And
wow.
And I've had a lot of I lived in a very old house, and a lot of there were a lot of entities there. And there's kind of a running gag in the family and with my friends that I'm like a car alternator. I don't know the name in English. It's like
I think that's the right name.
Yeah, you convert energy.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, some that are past but not crossed yet come and see me, and so I help them cross. But sometimes it takes time, and it started. I was very, very young, and back then I didn't help them cross. I just I just knew they were there.
What does that look like? Or what is it like? What is it like?
I can't see them. I can't see
like a
them.
Feeling?
I feel them, and sometimes they'll throw things at me, or they'll move objects near me. And
what's the worst thing they threw at you?
The worst thing that happened
like
to
me.
They lifted.
It's not just like a floating knife.
There's one that lifted my hair like this, and I was looking at my hair, and it put it down like this.
Did you like punch it or like?
No, I just said okay. Well, that energy touched me a few times. It tied my pajamas, and during the night, that I didn't like. that was too close for comfort. that was not okay. So I was happy when it crossed. Yeah, but I can feel them. I can feel if it's positive or negative, and it's mostly energy. I saw a few of them. But that's I don't wish to see them.
What do they look like?
It's more shadows, like you can see like the shadow of someone, and I could see like where the eyes are. It's darker. Mm-hmm. And it was scared. It was scared of me.
What makes you?
Thing.
What makes you like have conviction that like it's? I'm just curious because I've never had any sort of anything. What convinces you that that's like? Because you're a very rational, logical person, right?
Yeah.
So like, what convinces you that that's an entity, or like that's a?
Well, I don't really know how to call them. Some people
call
them ghosts. Some people call them entities. Some people say dead people. I don't know. I go by the energy that I feel, and sometimes I can smell perfume or aftershave. Then I can know more if it's a male or a female. And maybe what year, because sometimes it's like old perfume. So I'm going to know it's a grandma, somebody's grandma. It's not necessarily someone I know.
So you could be a shaman.
Yeah.
You could like.
Yeah.
One of those people.
Some people call me a witch.
Or a witch. Yeah. I'm curious though, because we're talking about Buddhism, and you also said you had near-death experiences, which I think are interesting. Like
2 times.
2? What was that like?
Yeah, well, the second one was after a seizure. During processing, I had seizures, as you know, and there was one time when I felt very different after the seizure, and I kept hearing my mother and my father-in-law talking. I knew exactly what they were saying, but I just couldn't wake up, and I was struggling to come back, really struggling, and it took me almost a whole day to come back. And I really was like between both worlds. I was really like, I not between them, but like on the tip. I was really feeling like I don't want to come back, but at the same time I want to come back. It was like an internal struggle. Because I was doing the processing, and that seizure occurred when I was explaining to my mother that I was doing the processing, and I was explaining to her the exact trauma that triggered the seizures when I was a kid. And
so you had seizures when you were a kid as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It started
Okay.
when I was, well, no, in fact, it was a misdiagnosed.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's
I
right.
started twitching when I was 12, and it was a misdiagnosed. They said I was epileptic. They put me in a hospital for 2 weeks, for 1 week,
Mhm.
and started giving me a lot of pills. And 1 month later, I had the first seizure, which was probably caused by the pills. Since I read an article on that, the Cleveland
That's right.
Clinic has published on exactly the same case
Mhm.
quite recently. And it was a misdiagnosed also. It was related to trauma. Since then, since I've processed all my traumas, I had no seizures at all. The last one, the last episode of seizures occurred when I was processing the biggest trauma, when I started processing. And I stopped for a while because I got scared and had to go back to the processing with a lot of hesitation and a lot of preparation and at a slower pace.
Yeah. But here's another key thing, just like an observation with you, right? So most people probably, it's like they start processing the specific trauma and it causes them seizures. They'd be like, oh, that's the wrong thing to do. Oh, I shouldn't touch that. That's something that just should not ever be touched. Right? But you didn't do that. You're like, well, how can I face this? How can I still process this? How can I do this in a way that is slower or more manageable for me to mitigate the symptoms, the adverse symptoms that I'm having? Right. So it's like you had these seizures, which were intense when you attempted to process this, and then you took it at a slower pace. Right?
Yeah.
Did the seizures reduce at that point, or like when you kind of went at it at a more
They did not occur.
so they didn't occur. So like that's a huge lesson right there too. Just like in the approach of the processing, and when you know the tools yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're the one who's in control on how fast you go, because that's a huge fear that people have. And I wanted to dig into it further, especially when you said, when I started processing, that's when the seizures came up again, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or one of the times that they came up again.
Yeah.
And
like
that could
yeah, and the near-death experience, that was less time.
Because that could scare some people off from processing.
Yeah.
But then,
absolutely.
but we got to complete the story, which is you then went at it, you altered your approach, and you didn't have a seizure ever again, right?
Never again.
Never again, because you fully processed why you were having the seizures in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
So, but the seizures that you had when you were a kid, were those, because I'm a little confused, because you said they were caused by the medication, but then the ones in adulthood were, obviously there was a root of trauma with that. So
yeah.
Or is there some kind of overlap?
Yeah. It's called psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, PNES. And it's really induced by trauma.
Okay. So it's not.
So when I was a kid, when I was young, it was induced by trauma. Not for the seizures, because those were really induced by the medication. They started 1 month after the medication started, almost day to day. So almost to the date. But the twitching started because of the trauma. That made trauma. And I had dissociation also. And when the seizures started, well, of course, everybody was saying I was epileptic, and I was saying that also, because that's what I was told. And until maybe last year, when I understood that, okay, that's not what it is. Or no, not last year. When in 21 when I started the program.
Yeah.
But until then, I thought I was epileptic, and I was on meds all my life.
Okay.
To control supposedly the twitching and the seizures.
Interesting. Okay.
And it never controlled the twitching, which is a confirmation that it's not epileptic. It's really due to trauma.
So it was epilepsy medication.
Yeah.
Okay. But never stopped the twitching. Were you on any other sort of like medication for like the trauma or
No.
PTSD just for that?
No, my doctor prescribed me a few. I never took them. Because
I love it. That's yeah.
Yeah, the typical me. But I was scared of the interactions with the epileptic medication.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is you don't know. You don't really know what's going to happen to you. It's like the upside is like very immediate and short term. But like, what are all the downstream effects? It's like, you really don't know. What is it really doing to your brain or your body? Like I've heard stories of people, and obviously these are extreme, but literally like eating away at their digestive system where they have to get certain portions of it like cut out. And it's but that's what the system is prescribing, or like literally prescribing people, but that's what the system is suggesting people do. And I always had the mindset that, hey, I want to exhaust every single like natural remedy that I can come in contact with before going on medication.
Yeah.
And that's what I always thought like the Hippocratic Oath was. It's like, first do no harm. It's like, well, to me, what that means is like, let's exhaust all of the natural problem solving techniques before we escalate to something that could be potentially harmful.
Yeah.
But just, it isn't done that way. But yeah, that's interesting with the epilepsy medication. I do have another question though.
Yeah.
So like we talked about a little bit about Buddhism and meditation for 25 years and how you had that really strong foundation of awareness before even jumping into the program, which really helped you get a jump start on kind of the thought swap and processing and everything like that. What kind of meditation do you do? Where did you learn it? And do you recommend people to do it?
I absolutely recommend anyone to do meditation, whether they want to heal or not, whether they want just to go through life. It's really something that helps to recharge your spirit. It's really, it has a calming effect on the body. It's something that's proven scientifically. It really helps you to be more serene in your head, in your thoughts. Mm-hmm. You can learn to control more than your thoughts. You can learn to control your parts of your body also. If you go in deep in meditation, mm-hmm. You can go in alternate states. There's different levels of meditation, but of course, just the beginner's level is sufficient to gain real benefits.
Okay.
And it doesn't take a lot of training to do at the start. So
what type of meditation would you say that you do? Like, is there a name for it or?
Well, I do all sorts because there are many kinds of meditation, but there's one that is essential, is to be in the present moment. You can do this when you're washing the I'm going to say washing the dishes. I know that many people now have dishwashers. I don't, never had. when I wash the dishes, I'm really focused on what I'm doing, and I'm the hands in the water, and that calms me down. And that's being in the present in that moment. That's a form of meditation. When you're raking leaves outside, being in that moment, listening to the birds, focusing on what you do all the time. That's being in the present. That's a form of meditation. And it's very, very beneficial for your body and for your mind. It's calming, it's soothing. And when you're doing that, you're not stressing about nothing. So it calms you down. Some people have have a lot of difficulty to even do that, because their mind is always like running around. They can't stop. Nothing. I'm someone that does a lot of multitasking. When I'm in the office, I'm doing a lot of things at the same time, and my day at work is very loaded. But when I'm in the mornings, in my routines in the morning, I go outside, I feed the birds, I shovel the snow because now there's snow, and I'm in that moment. Those are my moments when I can be a Zen person. That's me inside. I'm a Zen person, and I need that to be in balance, to be in harmony. And then I can go to work and I can be very productive. My energy level is different because I have done that. And sometimes I go shovel snow at night too.
So I think that's a great piece of advice for people struggling with trauma or whatever, like just taking advantage of everyday activities where you can just bring a little bit more presence to that activity. And it's been phenomenal for my life too. Or for me, like taking a shower and like being there, like fully in the present with the sounds and seeing everything and the little water droplets on the wall and everything, and feeling the warm water and the steam and everything, and just really being there. It is very calming, but in the beginning it can be challenging, but the challenge doesn't mean it's not worth it. Have you ever experienced the kind of the phenomenon where, like, I kind of noticed this when I would process certain things, that like my degree of like the more present that I could get myself, the easier it was for me to access certain emotions, because it would lower a lot of the barriers that I held, like consciously. And I think a lot of those barriers kind of like, for some reason, I haven't really talked through this a lot yet, but there's something about like just bringing yourself into the moment. And I've heard this a lot from people who have just done like breath focused meditation, where you do get into a more present state and you're focused on one thing. Your guards start to go down and emotions can start to come up. So I've actually utilized presence in the past as a tool to actually help me access certain emotions that I couldn't before. I don't know if you've ever like noticed that in yourself or have anything to say about that, but it was pretty profound for me.
Yeah. When I get into I can call it a Zen state or whatever. When I get into I'll call it an alternate state when I'm really present in my mind, in my body, and like in nature, and connected to all of it. I'm like connected to everything. And at that moment, I feel there's an awareness of everything. And at that moment, yes, I can feel every emotion. That there's, like you say, there's no barrier. Yeah.
So like that can, like for people who are actively processing trauma, that can actually be used as a tool to get in touch with emotions. Cause that was like one of the hard things for me, is like how do I actually get in touch with these emotions I've been pushing away for like my entire life, basically, you know? So that was very helpful.
Well, you were talking about like meditation focused on the breath. That's one form also, but the because the breath is very important, but it's also a technique, and the technique behind it is to put your focus on something. To be in the present moment is the same thing. It's the same exercise. You're focusing on one thing. You're focusing on what you're doing at that moment. You're being in the moment. So it's just a focus exercise.
Okay. That makes sense. Would you say that's kind of the main type of meditation that you do on a regular basis, is like a focused style meditation?
Yeah, you could sum it up like that if you want. You can practice focused meditation throughout your body. You can try to even slow down, like when you feel. I'm not an anxious person, but I've felt anxiety through it all. And when you feel anxiety, you have techniques like the side tapping or those techniques that are shown in the program. But meditation helps also, and by the breathing. But you can also go into your body and focus on lowering like certain rhythms, like your even your heartbeat.
Okay.
That's when you're that's not for beginners. So.
How do you develop to that point? Do you just get better, or is there like a certain progression?
I've known people that have said to me that were meditating for more than me, and they never got there. I've started a long time ago, and very early on, I was able to do those kinds of stuff. But it's probably because I have a capacity to focus and
no. It's because you're a witch.
Energy.
It's because you're a witch.
Playing with energy.
So is that kind of like
And I've proved that once already, because I had a small surgery and I refused the meds, and I underwent the surgery only with a Buddhist mantra.
No way.
Yeah, and my heartbeat, I was on monitor, and I could hear my heartbeat going down. I lowered my heartbeat, and I wanted to watch on the TV when they were doing the surgery. Mm-hmm. So at one point, I looked up at the TV, and my heartbeat started going up because the pain level was going up because I stopped the mantra, and I was looking at the camera at the TV, and okay, they were cutting the parts, and I said, okay, now I have to go back.
So you didn't have any anesthetic, painful. You didn't have any painkillers.
Oh,
you had nothing.
Nothing.
And what were they? They were cutting you open?
They went through my body parts, but they went inside and cut pieces of me.
What the hell?
And yeah,
that's like you are a witch.
The Buddhist mantra and my heartbeat.
What's your okay? You say Buddhist mantra.
It lowered again, and I was so calm. The doctor, when it was over, he said, "I never saw that. What did you do?"
So you didn't feel any pain, and it calmed you down.
Well, I felt like I did feel pain, but it was like a scraped knee or something like that.
They like literally cut you open with a scalpel.
Yeah,
it was like legitimate.
Yeah. Operation room.
What the hell? How long was it?
It lasted 40 minutes.
Okay, so getting cut open for 40 minutes. And the Buddhist mantra basically minimized the pain, so it was like a knee scrape, and you're able to stay calm throughout all that. What is the magic mantra?
It's called.
No, I mean, you don't have to tell me your magic.
The Lotus Sutra.
Lotus Sutra.
Lotus Sutra.
So is there how did you learn these mantras?
Oh, you can get them on the internet now.
So it's not like okay. So like you mentioned that like the breath focused meditation or some more of like the mindfulness presence exercises was really just about focusing your mind on the present moment.
Yes, it's focus.
How is this different from that? Or like, because you said you used a mantra specifically.
Yeah, but it's focus.
Is it still the same?
Yeah.
Okay. It's still the same thing, just you're focused on the mantra.
They call it the mantra for pain because it seems to have that effect on the brain, but it's not in French or in English. You don't really understand what you're saying.
That's insane. That's insane.
But you know the fundamental. You know that it's about the lotus being a flower that grows into mud and blooms. So whatever happens to you, you will bloom. You will get out of the mud. So that's the basis of it.
So that's what you were talking about when you said you use you could use meditation to control certain parts of your body.
Yeah. That's
insane.
I didn't even know I could. I had practiced it. I was practicing before the surgery, but I didn't know.
Like with what?
What level?
Like with what pain? Like how were you like shocking yourself or something? Or
no, I
you were just like,
I'm
going to practice this mantra, and then hopefully it'll work once they cut me open.
I have a lot of severe back pain due to a car accident. So I had 3 fractures in my back. So I'm familiar with pain. And in the worst days, I was like, okay, now's the time to practice. And before the surgery, I thought, okay, I'm not taking those meds. I really don't want to. I don't know how my body's going to react because my body always goes haywire with meds that it doesn't know. So I really felt that I had to refuse the meds and go with this. And the doctor, the only way he was accepting this was that if he would he would open a vein just in case.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I said, okay, open the vein, but don't put anything in it. And so that was the compromise. And so when it started, I'm really tough. I had on my body. I can handle a lot, but when it started, I was like, okay, that's good. Then it started to be really, really painful. And okay, now I really need to focus. And I really put my focus on the heart monitor and started the mantra and focused on the sound. And I was amazed at myself.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you practiced with your back pain and then you were just like, I want a bigger challenge.
Yeah.
Cut me open, doc.
Yeah.
Dang. That's crazy. I didn't know that you did that. What other witchy things do you do?
You don't want to know.
You said, okay, I wrote these down. You said alternate states, right, with your meditation. Because I think this is fascinating because like all I've ever done with meditation, it's been very beneficial for me, but it's just basically been the present moment mindfulness stuff as I'm doing something or the breath focused meditation. So I think it's fascinating. And I've heard stories of like monks, where they would go out in the snow, right, with a wet towel around them, and they would do a meditation called Tumo, like fire in the belly, right, where they would warm up their body until the wet towel around their neck was dry. Or like you see those guys who jump into like cold ice, like icy lakes, and they just sit there, right? Or they go underwater for a long period of time, right? So like it's amazing the power of the mind one, but then how we can actually utilize that in some way and train our conscious mind to use those and control what typically is a kind of just a subconscious reaction or bodily function, right? Like pain is not like we don't or you don't usually think that you consciously control pain, but yet through these techniques you can. Or you don't typically think that you can consciously control your body temperature, but through these techniques you can. Or you don't usually think that you can consciously control how your body uses oxygen so you can conserve it so you can stay under longer water, but you can. And it's like fascinating. And I'm not sure like all of the practical applications to it, but it's pretty badass.
Yeah. I have a bigger problem with temperature, body temperature.
Yeah.
That I can't control. I have, I have an issue with hyperthermia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but you did. What was your primary, like the primary meditation that you did over like the 25 years that you found to be the most beneficial, that you think would be beneficial for somebody who's listening?
It's really easy. Really, really easy. I heard it from a monk, and it's I call it watching the clouds.
Okay.
It's a monk that said meditation is like watching the clouds. You have an idea, a thought that comes, you let it go like a cloud in the sky. It's like each thought is like a cloud in the sky, and you let it go. So you have a thought that comes, you just let it go. It's like a cloud. So I imagine clouds. I'm a visual person, and when I start the meditation, it's like I imagine clouds passing by just like this, clouds like this. And if I have a thought, it goes with the cloud. It's going with the other cloud, another thought, another cloud. And it's just clouds, white clouds and a blue sky.
What does the
It's really easy.
What does the thought look like? So like I imagine myself like
I don't have many thoughts now.
When you started, was it just like, did the thought turn into the cloud? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I would like wrap it in the cloud, go surf on the cloud, or just
What did it look like? Like words, or like was the thought like an image?
No, just like if I was thinking of someone, I would or work or some kind of, or groceries, or when you start meditating and you don't have any practice yet, or even afterwards, something's going to come up, and it's always it can be very it can be annoying stuff, like you need to clean the house. Well, the broom as a thought.
So how long
you're trying to meditate? There's a cat meowing behind you. The cat is a cloud.
Goodbye, cat. So how long would you meditate for typically? Doing that style of meditation? How long would you recommend somebody getting started?
Well, if you're starting, try 15 minutes. You're going to think long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to think 5 minutes was long. Literally, when I started, I was like, this is painful. So I just want to do something.
Between 10 and 15 to start.
What do you do now?
If you do under that, it's like there's no beneficial effect, I feel. It's just to put you in the training.
Okay. It's like 10, 15 minutes of the cloud meditation.
Yeah.
And that'll help build more awareness around those thoughts and give you more, probably help you with the thought control as well. Yeah. Which is like, that's actually a key, like the awareness, like gaining that separation from the thoughts, just to share for the people who are listening, how it integrates into actual healing trauma is that if you imagine that you are consumed with the thoughts, which most of us are, meditation helps separate yourself from the thought and distance yourself from it.
Yeah.
So you're in a more grounded, serene place, but also you're in a place of more control.
Yes.
Right? So the thoughts aren't controlling you. You are, even though it's not like control, because it is a very kind of natural flowing experience, right?
Yeah.
But you're in control of the process more.
Yeah.
Like you use that same skill when you go to process a trauma, because when you're processing a trauma, you're not getting consumed by the trauma. You are separate from it, and you see yourself as separate from it. So you can work with it from quote unquote a distance. Right. And as you mentioned, like when you started coaching with us, you already had that foundation of awareness. So you could change those thoughts. And I'm sure it helped you all throughout the processing as well, because you're able to just see everything and not get consumed or flooded with it. And that's like a huge essence of awareness, and why, again, that's one of the foundations to healing, just as like thought control would be. But yeah, that's cool. I'm not sure what else to say to you except for one thing, which is I love like one thing that I've noticed with everybody who's been successful that I've coached with, they've always had a bias towards action. Right. And I love action. I love even learning about it. And I was reading this book. It was Letters from Rockefeller to it's a book I'm reading now, Letters from Rockefeller to his son, basically teaching him his success principles, which is like crazy. And it's like, why did I not hear about this until right now? Like the richest man in American history, I don't know, probably not in all of history, but in American history, the richest man that ever existed, he wrote letters to his son. Why did I not know about this? Teaching him the principles of how he was successful. And that's something too that I don't really talk a lot about, is like when creating the program and healing myself and healing with Kayleen, like we took a lot of principles of that, you could just call it principles of success, that we learned from a lot of just successful people in a lot of different arenas. We didn't just look at like the prominent, therapeutic practices or psychological practices. It's like, I looked at business, I looked at sports, I looked at religion, I looked at all these different things, and it was very helpful. But the psychology of success and the principles of success was one of the foundational things for like the mindset portion to it. And one thing that I read in his letters last night or 2 nights ago was action solves everything. Right. And I know, and this is what I'm getting to, is that everybody who's joined our program that has been successful have been action takers. And that's something that you have always been. So I was just wondering if you had have you always been that way? How essential do you think action is? Boom. That's how much it is. For those who are listening on the audio, she just literally held up a sign that she has pinned to her wall, but that says action. So tell how important was it for you to be like a go-getter, action taker? And do you have any tips for anybody?
Oh yeah. I can give you tips.
Hell yeah. Let's hear it.
For me, what worked a lot was journaling, because I've been journaling since I was a kid. So that was a big part of my journey. It still is. And analyzing a lot. Always done that. But taking action is always a big thing for me. In life, professionally also, it's always about action. Always solving, like I said, always solving problems. For me, it's not a problem. It's a solution waiting to be found. That's my motto. That's what I teach everybody I come in contact with. And so it goes also with my mindset and my attitude. All of that is all connected, and the awareness, of course. And so to put all of that together in action means that I'm moving forward always. So I need sometimes my head cannot hold everything. So I have my toolkit is made of Post-its.
Oh, Post-it notes, yeah.
I have Post-its everywhere. And this for me is something that works. It always does. It always does, and it always has done the work for me. During the program, I started to put Post-it on my mirror, just to remind me of things. Like sometimes I would put "the force is with you." Sometimes just simple phrases that are funny, so it keeps me in my positive mindset, but have powerful messages and will keep me on my good path, my straightforward path, and my healing path. So sometimes I would have like maybe 10 Post-its on my mirror. And I'm not someone that will not see them. Some people will say, "Oh, you don't see them anymore." No, don't worry. I'm reading each and every one of them each time I go in front of
the most present person.
Oh, yeah.
I see everything.
I see everything. So yeah. And I have Post-its on my fridge, on my countertop. I have Post-its everywhere. And when I have something to do, I get it out of my head. It's on a Post-it, and until it's done, the Post-it stays there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a stress elimination by doing so. Sometimes if I get too many Post-its, well, they become a list. And when you can see there's some blue, that's my color when it's done. So I take all the Post-its from someplace, I make a list, and that's a list I have to do within a few days, and I put some blue on the things that are done. Stress elimination, that's a major win there. With those techniques, it works. I've implemented those in many places in my life. A lot of people use them, and it works. I also have this Post-it that is over here that I put on my forehead like this, and it says, well, it's too faint. It says, "Just visiting the funk." That's my Post-it. So if I feel down one morning, I'm going to put that on my forehead, go in the mirror, and it feels so strange to have that on the forehead. It doesn't stay there very long because I was just visiting the funk, and the funk goes away. It's like that, and saying, like if I have a bad day with my back, I'm going to say, like Daffy Duck, "Suffering succotash." And that brings the drama level to a zero. It's using techniques to lower the negative, the drama, all of those that will make your path more difficult. Eliminate the obstacles. Find a way that works for you and apply it everywhere. Whether it's a symptom of the trauma, whether it's in your everyday life, you apply it.
I love that.
Yeah, that's how I go. That's how I work, and it works. And for me, that's how I deal with a lot of stuff, just to eliminate stress and eliminate negativity.
Humor. Yeah. I think humor is such a powerful
I've done
tool
that
we don't often think about.
Yeah, I've done that all my life. My sense of humor, my mother says that it saved me because I always turn things into jokes. I always laugh about myself a lot and say things that are funny, but not in a derogatory, not in a negative way. It's really just because I'm laughing about the situation. It's just to downsize it, to bring it to a more. It's easier to deal with it maybe when it's like something that's funny.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I don't know, like the exact processes that go within it, but it's such a beautiful thing. And something that I always think is funny in like our like coaching community or on the Q&As or something is that there tends to be quite a bit of laughter, which is like a beautiful thing. Like you would think that, or I thought before actually like trying to help people that it might be like kind of depressing helping people who've gone through some of the darkest shit humans have ever gone through. Like, honestly, you know? And, but like to my astonishment, people are hilarious and it makes life so much better. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what you go through. Like you can find humor in the darkest places. And it always reminds me of Viktor Frankl in the Holocaust camps where he was able to make people laugh. So it's like humor is such a powerful tool to one, like regain control over a dark situation. And like you said too, minimize the damage or the drama, as you said, or just the destructive power of it.
Yeah.
And put it back in its place. Like that's humor. Yeah. Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps you gain that serenity inside because you're eliminating the negativity.
Now, one other thing that I want to talk about is so one of the most recent or the last thing that you had overcome in your journey to achieve the status of fully recovered was night sweats, right? So like you were having night sweats
for
every
years.
night, right? And I don't know if like, would you say, it wasn't like a nightmare, but yet
No.
you woke up like literally drenched
Oh yeah.
in sweat, right? And
I had to change nightgowns sometimes 3 times in the night.
yeah, so it was very intense. And again, with the root of trauma, and I remember, working through this with you, and we used various techniques along the way. But one thing that you said helped you at some point, which I think is just an interesting conversation, was a specific movie called White Squall, right?
Right.
Because it helped you. Because one of the tools that we teach is called Protectors, and it's basically it's very similar to you could say shadow work or parts work or IFS, but basically like the core fundamentals that you have these different parts of your psyche or your personality, and you can interact with them, you can talk with them, you can identify their traumas, their core beliefs, and help them process them. And like the easiest way to put it for somebody who's new to this is that, have you ever felt the feeling like, oh, there's like, I want to do this thing, but this other part of me does not want to do this thing. Like that's like a very simple experience or event that happens to everybody, where it's like we're divided on things in our own minds. And this technique that we teach just helps you interact with those different parts of your mind and helps bring harmony to them, to each other, and then also helps heal them individually. But I wanted to talk to you specifically more about the movie aspect of that, because I thought it was very interesting with the symbolism behind that. And that was something that I haven't really, like, I've dug into it more. I haven't like fully thought it through yet. So I'm just curious again to hear like how that movie impacted you, how seeing the different characters impacted each different part of you, and why do you believe it was so impactful that, but I mean, how many times did you watch it? Like 5 times or something?
I think I watched it 6 times in a row. And I did rewatch it afterwards a few days later. And I'm still going to watch it.
Yeah.
To check if there's something left.
Yeah.
But this movie did bring me to total healing of I can say total healing of that those night sweats, and that is the I'm smiling right now because it was so amazing. It was so amazing. I was having night sweats for years. Didn't know what was happening truly. At one point, did not remember the dreams. I'm a person that usually remembers a lot of dreams during the night. And I knew I was going back to my old place. I'm going to call the island. I knew I was going there every single night because I had been doing that all my life, even when I lived there. And it was different since I had moved out of the island, and it was like I had been going to the house of when I was at a very young age, before all the renovations had happened, and it was like the child in me that was going back. And I thought the night sweats were due to that child at first. And I was not understanding because I thought I'm supposed to be happy going back at that house. So, and then you guided me through this, and we kind of had this understanding that it was not the child that was causing the sweats, but another protector and another part of me, and a part that didn't want to go back. Mm. So each night when the child was going back, the other part was having a war.
Yeah.
with that part, and so that was causing it. And at one point I got kind of tired of it all, and I looked myself in the mirror one night, and I said, okay, that's enough. We're not going back to the island. Don't be scared. That's enough. And that night started what I could call the blockage. Starting that night, I had no memories of my dreams. It lasted a few months. I had to build back some trust. But that was really odd because all my life I had memories of my dreams. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt disconnected completely. And so then when I kind of reconnected, I started to do a bit of work on both those parts to try to make them see each other's side. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to do it. And you and I were working on that. And it kind of, at one point, I was kind of going, I felt I was making progress, but I felt at the same time that it was really going slow. Will I get somewhere sometime in 25? And on December 31st, we had a Zoom, and you kind of guided me again on some kind of approach, and it kind of it kind of made me see also that maybe there were other parts that were not expressing themselves inside of me. And I thought that January 1st, I thought, hey, I need to do something. I need to find a way to connect with everyone inside of my head. And I was looking at my collection of DVDs, and I found that movie that I hadn't watched in over maybe 13 years. And I put it on, and it's called White Squall. It's about a brigantine school boat, and it's a true story, and it happened in the 60s. And it all through the movie, you follow those kids that most of them were rebels. The kids end up there because the parents don't want them or around or whatever. Some it's just for the experience. And you have the captain and his wife and two other shipmates. And you learn about those kids all through the movie. And then there's this white squall, which is a phenomenon that back then it wasn't even recognized as so. And it happens. It pushes the boat into the sea on the side, and it sinks. But it lasts for some time. It's not like instantaneous. And you go through the event with all of those kids that and the crew and the captain and the crew, and everybody's going through the events in a different way because they're either in the cabins or outside or on deck or whatever, and they get either thrown in the water or whatever. And they're all living through this event, the same event, but through a different past, because they're all different characters with a different past and different experience of the sea. And they all go through it differently. And it's like if all of my parts were associating with maybe one of the characters. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the movie, there's a trial. The captain goes on trial. And so my parts each time I saw the movie, during the time I was watching the movie, I was kind of having like a party inside where everybody is like, oh, I can feel that emotion. Oh, mm-hmm. Me, I can feel that emotion. And mm-hmm. everybody was like at the rendezvous because everybody loves the sea. I grew up near the river. I was on the water a lot. And for me, sailing speaks to me. And I've always said I'm the master of my ship. So for me and all of my parts, that was the movie that would speak to everybody, if I can say so. And everybody was on common ground to open up. It was like, okay, everybody is safe to come out. Everybody will be able to have a moment. So the first time I viewed the movie, one of the parts took the lead at one point when it was the sinking. It was always when the sinking happened, mm-hmm. one part would like take the lead, and okay, I was journaling and writing and really expressing everything. And okay,
as it was unfolding on the screen, you were journaling.
Yeah, the emotions, okay. And I was connecting with something in the movie, and it triggered. And okay, now we're going. It's that way we're going, and it's coming out, and okay, we're processing that. And then the movie ends, and I'm still writing Kleenex, and okay, done. That part is done. That part expressed herself. So okay, starting the movie again. And then I did another part took the lead. I was not looking for which part. It kind of happened. And at the last time I watched the movie, the captain spoke at the trial, and it reached out to a part I never knew existed. And it was the part that took control of everything and saved everybody, because she had to do what she had to do to save everybody and leave the island. Mm-hmm. So her ship sank, and she took control. She was the one that was the captain of her ship. And so I connected to the captain at the end. And that part got to say her word. She never had the chance to voice anything in life, because she always had to do what had to be done. It was like the first time. So I'm happy I watched it 6 times. So she could come out. And at the end, all I could say was it felt so amazing, because all the crying, I had no pain in my chest. It came from very deep. I felt it coming from very deep, but I had no pain in the chest, and it felt like freeing myself from a weight that I was carrying for so long. And I really felt like, I can call it integration, or it really felt like, okay, everybody is coming together. And in that movie, they say, where we go, I'll go. And it's like, okay, that's it for me. Now we're all in the same place at the same time now. It's now. It's now. It's happening now. Yeah. And I was so aware of that moment. I was really in that moment, and it felt, I really felt like the Buddha at that moment. It was like really intense, and it felt so good. Yeah. It felt so good. And I never would have reached that without the program. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
I know I told you.
but really, like, it goes back to, like, you were the one who put in the action in the first place. It's like that is like the determining factor right there. But I think the word integration is the perfect word for it, because all of these parts of your mind or your psyche or your personality that have been pushed away for so long from trauma, right? Yeah. We're now coming forward and becoming whole again. And really, with the parts work, like, that's the goal, is to reintegrate all of those parts that have been pushed away, as many as we can, right? And you seem to do it in a very sequential way. Like, every time you went through the movie, you processed one part, and then the next one came up, and then the next one came up, which is very similar to how just trauma healing happens naturally anyways. It's like you strip off this layer, and then it reveals the next one, reveals the next one, reveals the next one. And at the core, you got to the captain. Yeah. But no, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's something that everybody can be aware of and start to utilize more, is like, look for that symbolism that can help you get in touch with certain aspects of your mind that may have been pushed away, and don't shy away from that. And it's okay to look for that, because I know, like, for me, it's like, I didn't even look for that stuff. And it can be everywhere. It can be anywhere. I mean, it doesn't have to be a movie. It could be a song. It could be a painting. It could be literally something that, like, a story somebody else is telling you, and you can start to pull out different symbolisms, or like in a book, and you can pull out different things and different meanings for you that can trigger, in a good way, in a positive way, bring forward, might be a better word, bring forward those parts of you that have been hurt. that you can now start to heal and listen to. And what a beautiful thing. So I think that's an incredible story on symbolism, and also the fact that you did it 6 times in a row too isn't something like the average person would do, because like it is painful, like to do that. Like it feels good, right? On one hand, but on the other hand, like crying like that, there's an element of pain to that. But what, like, one lesson that people can extract from that story is that you found the thread and you kept pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling until you got to the end. Right.
Yeah. And
it's like once you get that thread, once you get the stream of information coming, like you want to allow it to keep coming, because it can be very hard to start that. Like to start the tap can be a very hard thing to get going. So when you get it, it's really it's important. It's very beneficial is the right way to say it. It's very beneficial to allow that to continue until it's exhausted, especially if you have the time and the place to do it. Yeah.
I was supposed to be cooking.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
The kids were coming over, and a friend of mine the next day, and I was supposed to spend the day cooking and cleaning, and I had to stop after the 6th time because it was 2:00 in the afternoon, and I thought, I'm gonna be late tomorrow. I need to cook. So I did less cleaning, but I started the cooking. So I had to stop. And that's why I stopped, because I would have continued. I wanted to continue. Yeah. I just wanted to, like you say, you're on a thread. You don't want to cut it. You just want to go on.
Yeah. So you don't have to find it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But it's nice. It's nice that you had the stimulus of the movie to get it going. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember that's happened to me, not to like the extreme that you had with this movie, but like certain aspects of a movie or a show or something like might hit me emotionally, and I would repeat it until it was done. Cause like it would, cause the thing is like, sometimes it can be hard to accurately express how you truly feel, especially if you limit yourself to language, words, right? If you like it, because words are just one dimensional. It's just the auditory version of thought, but there's also the visual form and the emotional form, and and there's so much to it. And even music that doesn't have any words can evoke different emotions inside of you. So like there's a lot of different elements to a trauma or a memory or thought. And sometimes just something on screen or something can just perfectly exemplify what you're feeling. And you might not even know why, but it can reveal to you and symbolize the exact thing that you are experiencing. And it can bring that forward to then be worked with and healed. But it is such a beautiful thing. I am curious, because one thing that you did, right, which is something that I did a lot in my own healing, is that when you were watching the movie and you got to the point where the squall came, and you said each time you went through it, a new part kind of emerged, and you, like, a lot of tears came out from a really deep place, which is another sign that like you're really getting down to the root of it. But you would journal. So I'm curious, like, what did you journal? What did that look like? Was it just allowing that part to express itself, or did you have a certain like trajectory or goal with that you wanted to get out of it, or like what did that look like?
It was more starting. It was often something that somebody said in the movie that was really something I could have said. And then it was like that could apply to my situation, and I really felt the emotion of that sentence, or the emotion that was behind it, and that would trigger, like, since I've been writing a lot since I was very young, and I still do. I would start writing, and it would, like, it really flowed. It came out, and it was like nonstop. I would get cramps in my hand. And it was the pouring out of the emotions put into words, but also at the same time, it was like explanation of why I felt that way and why I acted in such a way, and what led me to certain situations. And it was an analysis that was done in the processing that was being journaled at the same time. And it was like, okay, you can go now. You're free of that. And it wasn't on you. It's not on you. It never was. And you do not have to carry this. And it's not your burden, and you can free yourself of it. It doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
I always say that regarding what people think about me, because I don't give a shit. That I always say it belongs to them.
Yeah.
And I don't care what people think or say about me, and because it doesn't impact me mentally. It I know what I am, who I am. I know what I'm worth. It doesn't influence anything, and it's been like that for quite a while. So to have this being told to those parts that it's not on you, it doesn't belong to you, it's on them. What happened, and you were just another of the victims, and it's okay. So it kind of it's a question of perspective again. It's I often say that life on Earth is a question of perspective for the humans.
Yeah, no, 100%. So it sounds like, again, the movie was like a stimulus to that part. It emerged forward, and then you allowed it to share exactly what that part felt. Right?
Yeah.
It has been held back for so long.
Yeah.
And which was really like, which came out with a lot of emotion. So it's just like pure expression. But as it came out, you dug deeper, and what you said was like, you analyzed it. So you asked questions, right? Asked different questions to learn more about, that part or that experience or that emotion, to see where it came from, why it was happening, all that stuff, to fully understand it.
Yeah, I didn't have to ask questions. It kind of
did questions come up naturally?
Yeah, it kind of all come out. It all came out quite naturally. It
was like an intuitive process for you, which I was going to touch on that too, because there are many moments in healing and processing that are very intuitive, where it just flows completely naturally like that. And
I think that the movie was key to it. The fact that, like I said, it's common ground for everyone. The sailing, the water, all of it. I think that was it. That's what I needed to have this happen. I don't think it would have happened otherwise. It's like that was the key element to it.
I think it could have happened otherwise, but I think it's a lot better with it.
Taken time.
But I think it's a lot better with it. I think But as I was saying, I'm just trying to like dissect what actually happened, because like you can go through a lot of these intuitive healing events, right? And one thing that I would always do, especially when I would do it all the time, and now I do it with other people. But like to build the program and to learn how to actually do this, I would go back over what worked, even if it was a largely intuitive process. I would then try to break it down into its elements to understand, well, what did I exactly do? Because I might not have consciously gone through these steps, but I did go through and do certain things. So if I can learn more about what I did, I can replicate it and then apply that to other people and teach it to other people. So, but it did sound like you said like there was an analysis of it of some sort. It was just like an intuitive analysis.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it does sound like you did ask questions, but it was just like intuitive questioning, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to that point where you're like intuitively questioning it to learn more about it, but it was like a big expression with the analysis. And then it sounded like once you exhausted kind of that emotion or the expression, it got to a point which typically happens like of like stabilization, where it's like all of the emotion is gone. And now we're at this point of kind of neutrality where you can then kind of install a new thought process or belief, which you did, where you're like, it's okay, you can let go. It's not your burden, whatever, it's on them, whatever you said there. And then there, it's like them letting go of this old perception and this old belief, and then you coming in and building this new belief on top of it on there. So does that sound like a good analysis of what happened?
Yes.
Just for me? Okay. So, because I think it's also important, you're healed now, so it's like not really that big of a deal, but problems still come. But something that I always like to do with people is like, when you find success, try to go back and analyze what did you do so you can repeat it in the future, even if it's not as perfect. If you can figure out the different elements, like I was saying, that worked for you. Like in this case, I found a stimulus to bring this emotion forward, then I allowed it to fully express itself. And while it was expressing itself, I analyzed it, asked questions to learn more about it. And then once it got to that point of neutrality, I installed a new belief. It's like, oh, maybe I can intentionally go through that process next time, because now I know one thing that works for me, so that whenever I do see another stimulus, I could bring myself through there and make sure that I go down and complete this process in a similar fashion. Yeah.
And the way I journaled is like it was on pads like this, and each part, each time I had a part that came forward, afterwards I would like, okay, this part, I would separate the pages, so each part was like identified and has a separate pad, if you wish. So it's not
organized in that way.
Yeah, it's not all packed all together. So I know that, okay, those are all separate parts. Yeah. When I went through the process, the first time I saw the movie, the first time I viewed it, and noticed that it was working for me, I thought, okay, let's do this again. I wasn't sure the second time would work again. And when I could see that there was another part coming, I thought, okay, I'm on a roll. I have to do this again. and so I did. And I thought, okay, this is so working. I'm going to get there. And that night I had no sweats. And it was the first night, no sweats. Then I had 2 nights in a row with no sweats. Then I had one night that was like not as sweaty, but a bit of sweat. No need to change the nightgown, so it was okay. But I noticed there was kind of a struggle, so I thought, okay, there's a hesitation from a part. So I went there and dealt with it, and now it's 8 days in a row. So it's done. It's done. I feel that it's done.
Yeah. When it's done.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Like Very obvious. So I have a bone to pick with you because you said something that's really bothering me.
Okay, go.
You said, without this movie, I don't think I'd be able to solve this thing. And like, that bothers me because of course you'd be able to
I
solve
would have
it.
solved
Like,
it.
how could you say that?
I would have solved it.
You would have
but
solved it. It's just a little nicer that you had this movie to
It's just that
bring this forward in this way.
The times would have been.
How dare you?
You know me. Yeah, the slow pace was not fitting for me.
Yeah, but it made me think, because like when you said that, I'm like, well, it bothered me in the sense where it's like, well, it's like a challenge. It's like, okay, well, what are the other ways that would have worked or that would have allowed you to process it without the movie? Because if you were here 100 years ago in this, or whatever, even before this movie was made, are you just saying you wouldn't have healed until this movie came out and you just magically saw it? I'm like, no, I wouldn't accept that. But I want to share with you something that you might find interesting, and it's relevant to the movie, and it's almost like creating your own movie for these parts, and it happens in a very intuitive, natural way, but it's a creative way to bring. I mean, you can do it with a singular part, but you could also take a multitude of parts and bring them through their own story that, like I was saying before, perfectly exemplifies the emotions and the parts and the journey that these parts need to go on. But you can visualize the whole thing. So instead of like having an external story, you kind of craft the narrative. And again, it's a very intuitive process, but you bring these parts through. And I wrote down a lot of the ones I did, and I tend to like do a larger training on this at some point. But in simple terms, it's like, it's bringing these parts of you through this story that perfectly exemplifies what they're going through, what they did go through, and them overcoming it. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I was thinking, well, that could be one possible way that we could have helped you solve that problem without the damn movie. But I'm glad you had the movie. Yeah. No, but seriously, like that process is very powerful if you ever want to attempt it in the future.
Yes,
if you ever have a need.
Yeah, I'd love to assist your master class on that.
Oh, I did do one. Did I do one?
I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there.
Oh, I should do one.
Maybe you should. Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked about it. Yeah. I will. Some point. Anyways, any last words, any last advice for the people who are listening here today that might be struggling, that might be having the worst day of their life, like who might have, like, this might be like the first thing that they've heard on, hey, recovery is possible. And like, what would you say to somebody who's still on this journey?
Healing exists. It is possible. And it is attainable if you do the work, if you put the energy in it, if you take action. You will get the level of healing depending on the level of work you put in. And yes, there is hope and there is light at the end of the tunnel.
How much light?
It's so much light. You can't
unfathomable amounts of light.
You can't see anything else but the light and serenity.
That's beautiful. Anything else for me? Any other questions? Or
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you again for everything. I am so grateful for the program, for the work that you did with me the last months, helping me, guiding me through the last stretch before the movie.
And then the damn movie stole my thunder.
No, not
kidding.
not quite, because I'm playing with you. Yeah. So yeah, very, very grateful, and there are no words to describe how grateful I am.
Well, I'm grateful for you, and thank you for that. I will accept the compliment. I told you I was going to be better at it. I accept the compliment. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's what it's all about.
Good. You're very good at guiding people.
Some would say the best. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say the best because next to therapy, you're absolutely the best. but I never had a coach before, so I'm going to say the best. Yeah,
I'm just a dude. So I tell people like, what do you do? Like, are you a therapist or something? I say, I'm just a guy. I just help people. Just went through some shit and help other people through it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, you're simply the best. Like
there we go. I was like fishing long enough for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. But anyways, it was a pleasure as always seeing you.
Pleasure.
Thank you
The pleasure was all mine.
And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Thank you so much for tuning in today and listening to the episode. The one thing I want you to take away from this is that healing is 100% possible. I don't care how long you've suffered. Mimi suffered for decades and decades, and there are many other stories of success of people healing. But I want you to take away from this that healing is possible, and not just possible for Mimi or other people, but possible for you. The person listening right now, you are probably struggling, and that's probably why you're listening to this, or you have somebody you love who's struggling. I want you to know, and I want everybody to know that it doesn't matter what you've been through, how long you've been dealing with this, or what anybody else says, what any doctors or therapists say, that healing is 100% possible. And the only way that you will not heal is if you stop, is if you give up, or if you believe the lies that it is impossible for you to heal, because that is one of the biggest lies that you could hear. But if you enjoyed this, hope you will subscribe to this, leave a little review. And if you want more help from me as a coach, you can check out some of the links in the description. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.